Hi everyone, it's Sue Plum here to share another scrapbooking process video with you. Today's layout that I am sharing is my third for the month of May using the May kit and mixed media add-on kit for Kitaholic Kits. So today's layout, I am creating a mixed media layout and I began with my background. Now the collection that is featured in this month's kit is actually the Carefree collection from Heidi Swapp, and if you've seen it you would have seen that it's got some beautiful subtle colours. Now in the mixed media kit this month we actually got some of the new gel crayons from Vicky Bouton, which are actually bright colours, and I had to figure out how to marry the two of these together and make some sort of cohesive page. So what I really wanted to do was use the gel crayons and get a subtle colour out of them and one that would work with the contents of the main kit. Now I played around with these gel crayons a bit and experimented with some different applications first. I tried wet, I tried dry, I tried different tools for applying them, and this was one of the ones that I came up with, and I actually really love the effect that this gives. So I was actually using a dry blend technique here, and I was actually using a foam blender. And what I did is I used a mix of the pink and orange gel crayons, and I just scribbled them onto my non-stick craft mat and then used a foam blender just to pick up the pigment and then blended onto my cardstock using that foam blender. Now I was able to go in with a mix of both colours at the same time, but I actually went in I started off with the orange. I just sort of blended that over my page. I then went in with some of the pink over the top, and I was actually able, because these are so creamy, I was actually able to sort of blend it on my page and get that really beautiful peachy, orangey sort of subtle colour in the background. Which was exactly the effect that I was hoping for. I just wanted something really soft so it wouldn't overwhelm the muted tones of this collection that I was working with. Now, the photos that I was working with for this layout are some photos of my kids and their cousins, and they were playing some board games at the time. Now, if you're anything like me, you are always happy to see kids doing something that doesn't actually involve a screen, and these guys all found out quite quickly that when they all put their screens away at the same time and interact and play games, that it's actually quite fun. So I was actually inspired by the theme of the Carefree collection, and there are, a number of words in that collection such as breathe and relax and unplug and all that sort of thing, and I thought that theme of unplug would work really well with these photos of the kids unplugged from their screens. So once I had that background colour down on my page, I wanted to add a bit of texture to my page, but I also, like the background colour, I wanted it to be really subtle. So I was working with one of the Vicky Bouton stencils that are in the mixed media kit. You can see it there. And I decided to just go in with some simple white texture paste. I didn't want to add any extra colour. I just wanted that really subtle texture in the background just to sort of add that little extra something to my background. So I used my palette knife and I used the texture paste, and I just applied the texture paste sort of in 3 spots on the background where I knew it would sort of peek out from underneath my background paper that I was going to put over the top. Now what I'm actually doing here is a wet application of one of those gel crayons. So what I did is I just scribbled a little bit of pigment onto my messy mat. I gave it a little spritz of water and mixed it up, and then I just used a paintbrush just to apply some splatters to my page. Now this is something that I usually do at the end, but I figured that while the texture paste was actually wet, that I might as well apply the splatters at the same time so that they could all dry off at the same time. So what I actually did is I took it off camera. I actually hit it with the heat gun a little bit. I didn't want to hit it with the heat gun too much because I didn't want to warp my cardstock too much with the heat. So then I went in with a little bit of paper towel and just dabbed off some of the excess moisture that was left behind. So once my background was dry, it was time to fiddle around with my papers for my paper layers. You can see that the main photo of that series of 3 there, I've sort of stuck 2 of the photos together and one of them I've got sitting separate, which I actually matted with a little bit of pattern paper just to help it stand out and pop a little bit more, because that actually was the main photo of the three. And I have cut some of the pattern papers and torn some of the pattern papers just to form a mat and define the focal area of my page. So I've got that beautiful, it's sort of a marbly watercolor style background paper. And what I actually did is I tore it to remove there was a sort of a mustard yellow and a greeny color there, which didn't really work that well with the page that I was planning. So I actually just tore along the line of that print just to remove that color from the page. This is the sort of piece that I was left with. I wasn't particularly aiming for any shape with this, and I just went with it. That was what I ended up with, and I just went with it because I thought it looked really cool on the page. So along the edges where I tore the paper, I went back in with my fingernail and I just distressed it a bit more just to give it that extra texture, just ruffled all the edges up, added some extra little tears. And then along that vertical edge that you can see, that sort of straight line along the edge of the blue, I actually added a small torn piece of one of the other papers from the kit that I had used previously. So I just tore off a little scrap and just tucked it under the edge there, just to tie in the colour, but also to soften that hard line that was formed. So that was the main sort of structure of my page in place. Now I wanted to go in and add some extra interest and some extra layers, and in this month's kit we actually got the Heidi Swap Carefree cardstock stickers. Now half of this sticker sheet is actually comprised of labels, and I find labels are, well, not necessarily always useful to me because I don't necessarily put lots of labels on my page, but I find labels are a really good way of adding like extra layers in behind your photo without actually using them as a label, if you get what I mean. So you can see what I'm doing here is I actually use them just to tuck in behind my papers, and it just helps frame in around my photos. It just adds those extra layers in. It all works in just to add extra visual interest, and it's a great way to use up labels if you aren't actually going to use them as labels for journaling or whatever. So some of them I actually cut in half, and I just popped half in, like you can see with that circular one, I've sort of popped half in up on the right there, and then I've popped the other half in down below. And just by using different shapes, it just adds extra interest to your page. So once I tucked in some of these cardstock labels, I wanted to add a bit of extra texture to my page. And rather than using the gauze that I usually use, I decided just to use some messy cotton for this one because it just was a little bit softer. And just because of where I wanted this texture to fan out on my page, I actually wanted it to sort of fan out more across the background and just be that little bit softer than the weave of a gauze. So I just used 3 little messy cotton nests, and I've just stuck the edges in and just allowed that cotton just sort of to trail out over the background. So I've got 3 little cotton nests there. I've got my photos in place. I've got all of the main structure of the page there. You can see I've added extra layers in with those labels, and now it's time to get about embellishing this page. So again, I reached for that cardstock sticker sheet, and I had that sticker there that says, this is where the fun stuff happens. I thought that was a really good thing to put in there given the theme of this page, and it also fit really well in that gap that I had between the photos. The colours worked, it was all just great. Then I dug into the die cut ephemera pack, and I just started pulling out some random little bits and pieces that would actually fit sort of around my photos and go with the flow of this page. So you can see I've got that sweet sort of cactus plant there. The reason I chose that, not because there was any cactus in the photo, not because it tied in at all. The colours worked, but the shape worked. The shape worked really well above that sort of strong blue vertical block that I had there, and it just sort of fit in with the shape. The colours matched, as I said. An embellishment doesn't always have to be right or perfect for your page. It just has to work. There's no reason I needed a cactus on my page, but hey, it worked. Now, I picked that word unplug for the title of this page, which I've just run along where that label is, that horizontal label, just on the corner of that main photo, because again, that helped draw the attention into that main photo. And you'll notice that here, my page is actually complete. So I had a malfunction with my camera. My camera decided to go to sleep and for whatever reason turn itself off while I was filming, and I didn't realize until I was finished. So I just grabbed my camera and gave you a scan over the completed page so you can see where I ended up putting my embellishments. They were mainly from the die cut ephemera kit. And I also went in with those beautiful Bow Bunny candy dots, which are those little sweet enamel dots. I really love the colorway of this package, and it works really well with this Heidi Swap Carefree collection. And that was it. A little bit of stamping. You can see it all there. If you've got any questions, pop them in the comments below and I'll get back to you. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you like what you saw. Thanks for watching. Bye.